TV signal hijacked. In 1987, a Chicago TV signal was hijacked, live on air, and the culprit has never been identified. The bizarre event unfolded on November 22nd, when WGN-TV's evening news was suddenly interrupted by a man in a rubber Max Headroom mask, a character from a popular 1980s TV show. The pirate broadcast showed the masked figure moving strangely in front of a spinning background that mimicked Max Headroom's trademark style. The interruption lasted about 20 seconds before engineers restored the feed. But later that night, PBS affiliate WTTW's transmission was also hijacked, this time for nearly 90 seconds. The masked intruder muttered strange phrases, mocked TV personalities, and even exposed himself on camera. Both incidents embarrassed the networks, and the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, immediately opened an investigation. The FCC traced the signal intrusion to a transmitter overpowering the station's frequencies, but the equipment needed was highly specialized. Despite technical leads, the hijacker was never caught, leaving the case open. To this day, it remains one of the most famous unsolved crimes in broadcast history.
Cryptic tiles in streets. For decades, mysterious linoleum tiles with cryptic messages have appeared embedded in asphalt across major U.S. cities. First noticed in Philadelphia in the 1980s, the Toynbee Tiles are usually the size of a license plate, pressed into roads so that cars flatten them into the pavement. Their messages read, "Toynbee idea in Kubrick's 2001, resurrect dead on planet Jupiter." Hundreds of these tiles have been found from Boston to Kansas City, and even in South America. The language links British historian Arnold Toynbee's theories of human renewal with Stanley Kubrick's film 2001, A Space Odyssey. Yet the meaning is unclear. Theories range from a lone artist's obsession to a secret group's coded philosophy. Investigators traced several tiles to a reclusive man in Philadelphia named James Marasco, but after his death in 2003, new tiles still appeared. The production method is believed to involve linoleum, asphalt glue, and tar paper, but the full process is unknown. The mystery remains unsolved, and the tiles continue to surface in city streets today.
A signal from space.
In 1977, a 72-second burst of radio energy stunned astronomers at Ohio State University's Big Ear Radio Telescope. The unusual signal was detected on August 15th by researcher Jerry Eman, who circled the reading 6EQUJ5 on a printout and wrote "Wow" in the margin, giving it its famous name, the WOW signal. The signal came from the constellation Sagittarius at a frequency of 1420 MHz, the natural emission line of hydrogen, which many scientists considered the most likely frequency for extraterrestrial communication. Unlike random static, the signal showed the clear rise and fall pattern of a narrow-band transmission. Attempts to detect it again in the same sky region failed, suggesting it was a one-time event. Possible explanations included passing comets, military satellites, or Earth-based interference, but none fit the data. A 2017 study suggested it may have come from hydrogen clouds around comets 266P Christensen or 335P Gibbs, but that theory remains disputed. No definitive source has ever been confirmed, leaving the WOW signal one of astronomy's most enduring mysteries.
A man with no name. In 1948, an unidentified man was found dead on Somerton Beach near Adelaide, Australia, with no signs of violence or poison. He carried no wallet or ID, and his clothing labels had been removed. Investigators discovered a small scrap of paper in a hidden pocket of his trousers that read Tamam Shud, Persian for ended or finished. The clue traced back to a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a Persian poetry book. That book was later found in a man's car near the site, containing a phone number, a cryptic code, and torn pages matching the note in the dead man's pocket. Despite widespread investigation, fingerprint checks, and international circulation of his photograph, the man was never identified. The case, known as the Somerton Man, or Tamam Shud mystery, has sparked theories of Cold War espionage, untraceable poisons, and secret romances. In 2022, DNA analysis identified him as Carl Webb, an electrical engineer from Melbourne, but the reason for his mysterious death is still unexplained.
The book no one can read. The Voynich Manuscript is a 15th century book written in an uncrackable script that has resisted decoding for over a century. Discovered in 1912 by Polish book dealer Wilfrid Voynich, the manuscript contains about 240 pages of strange text and vivid illustrations of plants, astronomical diagrams, and bathing women. None of the plants match known species,
and the script uses symbols not found in any other language. Cryptographers from World War II codebreakers to modern computer scientists have attempted to decipher it. The book's parchment has been carbon dated to the early 1400s, confirming it is not a modern hoax. Statistical analysis of the script shows patterns similar to natural languages, but no one has identified a translation. Theories range from it being a lost medieval medical text to an elaborate hoax or even an encoded alchemical manual. In 2017, one researcher claimed partial success by linking words to Latin abbreviations, but the wider academic community rejected the findings. The Voynich Manuscript remains unreadable, making it one of the most puzzling documents in history.
A treasure hidden in code. The Beale Ciphers are a set of 3 coded messages, said to reveal the location of a buried fortune in gold, silver, and jewels. According to a pamphlet published in 1885, a man named Thomas Beale hid treasure worth millions near Bedford County, Virginia in the 1820s. He left behind 3 pages of numbers as clues. One of the ciphers was solved using the U.S. Declaration of Independence as a key. It described the contents of the treasure, but the other 2, one said to give the exact location and the other to list the heirs, remain unsolved. Despite decades of effort by professional code breakers and treasure hunters, no one has cracked the remaining codes. Searchers have dug extensively in Virginia, but no treasure has ever been found. Some believe the story is an elaborate hoax designed to sell the pamphlet, while others argue the ciphers still hide a real fortune. With 2 of the codes unsolved, the Beale treasure mystery endures.
The game that never was. In the early 1980s, rumors spread of a mysterious arcade game called Polybius that appeared briefly in Portland, Oregon. Players reported strange side effects after playing it: nightmares, memory loss, and even sudden illness. The story claimed the game's cabinet attracted long lines, but was soon removed without explanation. The legend described government agents in black suits monitoring the machine, allegedly collecting psychological data. The game's graphics were said to use flashing patterns that altered perception. No surviving cabinet, circuit board, or authentic photograph has ever been verified. Most researchers believe Polybius began as an urban legend, blending real concerns about arcade addiction with Cold War fears of mind control experiments. The name first appeared online in 1998, long after the supposed events. While no evidence supports the existence of the game, the Polybius story remains one of gaming's most famous unsolved mysteries. The buzzer that never stops. Since the late 1970s, a shortwave radio station known as UVB-76 has broadcast a steady buzzing tone across 4625 kHz. The station, nicknamed the Buzzer, emits a repeating, low-pitched buzz, interrupted only occasionally by Russian voices reading numbers, names, or coded phrases. Its purpose has never been officially explained. Experts suspect it is linked to the Russian military, possibly as part of a communications network or a dead hand system, a failsafe designed to trigger retaliation in the event of a nuclear strike. Amateur radio enthusiasts have tracked the signal's origin to locations near Moscow and later St. Petersburg. Despite occasional shutdowns, strange background noises, and unexplained voice transmissions, UVB-76 always resumes. No official source has confirmed its function. The buzzer continues to transmit today, making it one of the longest-running unsolved radio mysteries in the world. Dead men with lead masks. In 1966, 2 men were found dead on a hillside near Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, wearing formal suits, raincoats, and lead eye masks. The bodies of Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana showed no signs of struggle or injury. Next to them were 2 towels, an empty water bottle, and a cryptic note reading, "Be at the specified location. Take capsules after the effect. Protect metals. Await signal mask." The lead masks, similar to those used to shield from radiation, deepened the mystery. Autopsies were delayed, and by the time examinations began, the internal organs had decomposed too much to test for poison. No capsules were ever recovered. Investigators speculated the men were part of an amateur electronics group, experimenting with spiritual communication or UFO contact. Others suspected a ritual agreement that may have involved self-inflicted harm. No definitive cause of death was established, and the case remains one of Brazil's most baffling unsolved mysteries.
The woman with many names. In 1970, a burned female body was discovered in Norway's Isdalen Valley, earning her the name Isdal Woman. She had multiple passports, wigs, and coded notes in her luggage. Labels were cut from her clothing, and her fingerprints did not match any database. Investigators traced her movements across Europe using hotel records, where she registered under at least 8 different identities. Witnesses described her as speaking several languages and often appearing nervous. Forensic analysis showed extensive dental work, uncommon in Norway at the time. Her cause of death was listed as carbon monoxide poisoning combined with barbiturate overdose. But how the fire affair started is unclear. Theories suggest she was a Cold War spy, given her multiple aliases and international travel patterns. Despite renewed investigations and DNA testing in recent years, her true identity has never been confirmed.
Dancing until death. In July 1518, residents of Strasbourg, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, were struck by a strange compulsion to dance. It began when a woman named Frau Trophia started dancing uncontrollably in the street. Within days, dozens had joined her, unable to stop their movements. Contemporary reports state that some collapsed and even died from exhaustion, heart attacks, or strokes. City authorities, believing the dancers were afflicted by hot blood, encouraged them to keep moving in hopes of recovery. They even hired musicians and cleared spaces for the sufferers. Instead, the outbreak worsened, with hundreds eventually caught up in the frenzy. Modern historians suspect mass psychogenic illness, a condition where psychological stress triggers physical symptoms in groups. Others point to possible ergot poisoning from moldy rye bread, which produces hallucinogenic effects similar to LSD. No definitive cause was proven, and the dancing plague ended as mysteriously as it began.
Children from the earth. In the 12th century, villagers in Woolpit, England, reported the sudden appearance of two children with green skin. They spoke an unknown language and refused normal food, eating only raw beans at first. The boy died shortly after discovery, but the girl adapted, learned English, and eventually integrated into society. She claimed she and her brother came from a place called St. Martin's Land, described as a twilight world where the sun never shone brightly. Historians recorded the account, but no physical evidence survives. Explanations have ranged from malnutrition, possibly chlorosis, a disease linked to iron deficiency that can give skin a greenish tint, to folklore symbolism. Some suggest the children were Flemish immigrants orphaned during regional conflicts. Despite theories, the origin of the green children of Woolpit remains one of medieval England's strangest unsolved mysteries.
Twins from the past. In 1958, twin girls Gillian and Jennifer Pollock were born in Hexham, England, 1 year after their older sisters Joanna and Jacqueline died in a car accident. As they grew, the twins began recalling details of places, people, and events connected to their deceased siblings, things they had never experienced. They identified toys that had belonged to Joanna and Jacqueline, used the same names for dolls, and pointed out landmarks from the town where the family had lived before, even though they were too young to remember moving. Their parents reported the girls also displayed mannerisms similar to their late sisters. Psychologists have studied the case as a rare example of alleged reincarnation. Skeptics argue that parental influence or subconscious suggestion explained the similarities. By the time the twins reached adolescence, the unusual memories faded. Still, the Pollock twins remain one of the most widely cited cases in reincarnation research.
A noise with no source. Across the world, people have reported hearing a low, rumbling noise known simply as the hum. The sound is often described as similar to a distant diesel engine idling, but it can only be heard by certain individuals. Reports first gained attention in the 1970s, with notable cases in Bristol, England, and Taos, New Mexico. Surveys estimate that between 2 and 10% of local populations can detect the hum. Theories include industrial machinery, low-frequency electromagnetic waves, or tinnitus, a medical condition where the ears generate ringing or buzzing internally. However, recordings rarely capture the noise, making it difficult to analyze scientifically. In some towns, the hum has driven residents to move away or seek medical help. Despite investigations by acoustic engineers and governments, no consistent source has been confirmed. The hum continues to puzzle communities worldwide. Bridge of Falling Dogs. In Dumbarton, Scotland, the Overtoun Bridge has gained a grim reputation. Since the 1950s, hundreds of dogs have leapt from the same section of the bridge into the gorge below. Many were killed, and survivors often tried to jump again. The strange pattern has led locals to call it the Dog Mystery Bridge. Animal behaviorists investigating the site found no structural issues with the bridge itself. However, they noted that the area below is densely covered with mink and rodent scent trails. Dogs, particularly long-nosed breeds like collies, may have been overwhelmed by the smell, causing sudden leaps without awareness of the drop. Despite the scent theory, not all jumps can be explained. Some owners reported their pets acted strangely before reaching the spot. The phenomenon continues, leaving the Overtoun Bridge both a hazard and a lingering mystery.
Death in the snow. In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute died during an expedition in Russia's Ural Mountains. Their tent was found slashed open from the inside, with belongings left behind. The hikers fled barefoot into freezing conditions. Some bodies showed severe injuries, fractured skulls, and broken ribs, while others were found with radiation traces on their clothing. Soviet investigators concluded they died of an unknown compelling force. Theories have since included avalanche, military weapons testing, infrasound-induced panic, and even extraterrestrial encounters. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case and attributed the deaths to a slab avalanche. But critics argue this does not explain the radiation, missing eyes, or unusual circumstances. The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most analyzed and debated mysteries of the 20th century, with no universally accepted explanation.
Letters of terror.
Beginning in 1976, residents of Circleville, Ohio, received hundreds of anonymous letters exposing personal secrets and accusing community members of crimes. The letters, written in block lettering, often contained threats. One of the main targets was school bus driver Mary Gillespie, accused of having an affair. In 1977, her husband died in a suspicious car crash after receiving a letter warning him to stop investigating. In 1983, Mary nearly fell victim to a booby trap rigged with a gun, but the weapon was traced to her former brother-in-law, Paul Freshour. He was convicted of attempted murder and sent to prison. However, the letters continued even while he was incarcerated, suggesting another writer was involved. Despite the investigation, handwriting analysis, and national media coverage, the true author of the Circleville letters was never confirmed. The case remains open, and the identity of the letter writer is still unknown.
The buzzing in Taos. In the early 1990s, residents of Taos, New Mexico began reporting a persistent, low-frequency buzzing sound, soon called the Taos hum. Only about 2% of the population could hear it, but those affected described sleeplessness, headaches, and even nosebleeds linked to the sound. A study by the University of New Mexico and Los Alamos National Laboratory investigated possible causes, including power lines, underground vibrations, and industrial equipment. However, no consistent source was ever identified. Recordings made in the area did not match what sufferers described. Some researchers believe the Taos hum is a localized form of the global hum phenomenon, while others suspect it is linked to individual hearing sensitivity or tinnitus. To this day, the Taos hum remains unexplained and continues to trouble local residents.
Siberia's silent blast.
On June 30th, 1908, a massive explosion flattened over 800 square miles of forest near the Tunguska River in Siberia. Witnesses described a fireball streaking across the sky, followed by shockwaves that knocked people off their feet hundreds of miles away. The blast released energy estimated at 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, comparable to a large nuclear bomb. When scientists reached the site years later, they found millions of trees scorched and lying in a radial pattern, but no impact crater. Soil samples showed no evidence of a typical meteorite strike. The absence of debris deepened the mystery. Most researchers believe the event was caused by an airburst, a space rock exploding in the atmosphere before reaching the ground. Some alternative theories suggest a comet fragment, natural gas eruption, or even alien spacecraft, though none have been proven. The Tunguska event remains the largest unexplained explosion in recorded history. Lights in the valley. Since the 1930s, strange lights have been reported in Norway's remote Hessdalen Valley. Witnesses describe glowing orbs that hover, dart, or float across the sky, sometimes lasting minutes. The lights vary in color: white, yellow, or red, and often appear multiple times a week. In the 1980s, the phenomenon drew international attention, leading to the Hessdalen Project, a scientific effort to monitor the valley with cameras and instruments. Researchers recorded unexplained light forms that could not be attributed to aircraft, satellites, or atmospheric reflections. Proposed explanations include ionized dust clouds, plasma created by rare geologic conditions, or piezoelectric effects, where quartz-bearing rocks release energy under stress. None of these fully explain the consistent sightings. The Hessdalen lights continue to appear, making the valley one of the world's most studied but unresolved UFO hotspots.